Well, hello there, one and all. Back to the Spacecast. And we're back with the weekly show where you guys vote on a topic about anything. And I talk about it for 20 to 30 minutes. And that's going to be the theme going forward. I'll put a poll up. You guys vote on it on topics that I've been requested to talk about or those that I'm interested in. And you tell me, hey, I want to see you talk about this. And then whoever wins, I talk about it in the next podcast, unless it's something super, super important. The one you guys voted on was me talking about how Eagles fans use the Dallas Cowboys' clout, engagement, views, clicks, you name it, right? And in this particular episode, we're talking about a certain engagement, which many people wanted me to talk about since it started. And that was about how Mr. Lord Brunson, an Eagles content creator, talked about how the Cowboys were a poverty franchise. Now, look, I was actually planning on making a video about it, but it was going to take so damn long. I didn't want to do that, because it would have taken a while to render, and I'm not going to do that. So, stuck it on the podcast, and you guys, elected to choose it. So, Lord Brunson's tweet was about, quote, poverty franchise. How can you be on this list and talk about running anything? #fly Eagles fly. And it said the following. Since 2010, only 3 teams have not made the NFC Championship game. Dallas, Detroit, and Washington. Right, and that's not a good list to be a part of course. But the fact of the matter is the Cowboys are not a poverty franchise, even in this current strand of unfulfilling postseasons and stuff like that. I think that is really ignorant, to say the least, to call the Cowboys a poverty franchise, unless you're, trying to trash talk, which I get it. And look, I want to be very, 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 very clear. I'm not trying to say that Lord Brunson is bad at what he does. He's a fantastic content creator, especially for the Philadelphia Eagles. He does a great job of covering his team, and he's really good at engaging his fans and his followers. And, hey, if he has an opinion, he sticks by it, and he's really good at that, and I admire him for that. Props to him. But when it comes to this, we're going to talk about why the Cowboys are not a poverty franchise and ammunition that you can use to talk about if he ever mentions this, okay? So look. When you look at the definition of a poverty franchise, right, to start things off before we get into the juicy things about how he used the Cowboys as engagement when you actually look at the numbers, I want to say this to everybody. To me, the definition of a poverty franchise is a franchise that is never relevant for more than a fleeting moment at a time and has a history of losing, failure, and despair. So examples for that, right, is like the Jaguars, or the Lions, the Cardinals. You could throw in the Browns there as well. Teams like that. Or if you want to use in the realm of basketball, right? Like that's like the Knicks, the Kings, right? You can maybe throw in teams like the Magic or something like that. I don't know. But you get what I'm trying to say, right? So to imply that the Cowboys are in the same realm as these teams in the terms of the longevity of the franchise is a bit ludicrous, okay? Yes, as being a younger fan, I understand I've not seen the glory days of the Dallas Cowboys, but that does not mean that the Cowboys do not have a long storied history that puts them in the upper echelon of the lore of the NFL, and we'll get into that momentarily, but yeah, the Cowboys are not a poverty franchise by that definition, and you can argue that the Eagles are, and I'll talk about that in a second. So, I did some research, there was some tweets that came out saying, I had some people say to Lord Brunson, especially my Cowboys sisters and brothers, how, hey, maybe worry about your own team rather than using the Cowboys for engagement. And then, he says, like, oh, engagement, you new here? And, they go on to say, hey, a lot of your tweets blow up are about the Cowboys and you're an Eagles fan. Funny how that works. And, you had Boss Cowboy go at him. Philly has poverty at the quarterback and the stadium smells like tried piss. Dallas, the city and team, is royalty, unlike Philly. And keep in mind, I'm near Philadelphia. I come from South Jersey. I'm very much familiar with the stadium. I love the complex that it's in. Even though the thing looks like, just a generic sports complex. But I'll give you this. Those fans know how to tailgate. I've been to a couple tailgates. They're fan-fucking fantastic, and I mean that. I'll give you props there. But look, you know, it's funny because, working in Philadelphia as well as being around Philadelphia for a long, long time, I'm very much aware of how the city operates, And sometimes I feel like I've adopted the attitudes of that city, if you know how I talk. But then again, that's probably a family thing. But getting a bit sidetracked. So look, they basically go all back and forth and stuff like that. It's just funny to me, right? So now the next thing is this, right? Is that after doing some research, I came to find out this. Since that tweet went up, in the last 66 days, on Twitter, by the way, 6 of Lord Brunson's 8 most engaged, that means liked and retweeted tweets, involved the Dallas Cowboys in some form or fashion. And in that same span of time, in the word bank, that, terms that he's used often, he's mentioned Dak Prescott more than Jalen Hurts. Like, he's used the word Dak, Prescott, you name it, more than Hurts, right? And I have proof down below using social bearing, too, on that tweet. So you can go on my Twitter account and take a look at that. So you might be asking, well, what tweets did this involve? Well, one said relevance, where it was like most playoff wins since 2000 or whatever the hell. And that garnered him almost 7,000 likes and 1,000 retweets. The next one was the poverty franchise tweet, followed by, and you might be wondering the engagement on that one, that came up to 2,700 likes and almost 400 retweets. He made a tweet talking about how Darius Slay is better than Trevon Diggs, getting almost 3,000 likes, 258 retweets. And then he had 2 other tweets. One, hey Dallas, last time y'all been to an NFC Championship game, Bradbury was 2, hashtag Fly Eagles Fly, amazing offseason, blah, 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 blah. That has over 1,000 views and 1,000 likes and 127 retweets. Another one, Nakobe Dean is very capable of having a better pro career than Micah Parsons, and I believe he will. 53 tweets, 906 likes. It feels like a lot of this stuff, like, listen, if that's your opinion, bro, props to you. I disagree. I think Micah Parsons is going to be like a Hall of Famer if things go his way. Hey, listen, anything can happen. Let's just keep it real, man. It feels like, you're just saying these things just to piss people off, and hey, more power to you. And then another one was Dak Prescott is elite at being middle of the pack. 51 retweets, 659 likes. Now, again, those, in the last 60 some odd days, 66, those were 6 of his 8 most liked tweets. Okay. And then you go on YouTube, right? And if you want to include the NFC East talk, 5, okay? 5 out of the 11 most popular videos on his channel involved the Dallas Cowboys, okay? And so one of them is him having a debate with Jay Tuck over at CFO Sports. Another one, an NFC East roundtable. Another one was him reacting to the Dallas Cowboys whoop the shit out of them. I believe that was the game I went to. Yes, looking at the date. Yep, that was the game I went to. Live look at the Dallas Cowboys, all this other crap. And his most liked view was the Eagles the best team in the NFC East after the James Bradbury signing. So if you want to talk about mentioning and I get it, we're in the division. I'm not trying to sit here and say, like, you can't talk about the Cowboys. I'm not trying to sit here with that implication. But, again, when you look at the numbers, like, dude, like, it's there. And, if you want to be like, oh, well, one of these was a reaction, or, oh, one of these, like, nah, you can't be doing that, bro. And so, like, again, the numbers are there. I mean, again, I'm not saying you can't do it, but look, that's what that tells me. But let's jump back to the comment he made. And I'm telling you guys, don't let Eagles fans, and I've Mr. Pessimist over here, don't give these Eagles fans props for 10. I don't want to count. I haven't done anything in 20-something years. Listen, we get the fucking point. I get it. If there's anyone that says that enough, that's me. And so, going back to the definition of what a poverty franchise is, again, in my opinion, It's a franchise that has never been relevant for more than a fleeting moment at a time and has a history of losing, failure, and despair. So, like, for example, right? When you look at a team like the Lions, the Jaguars, like, you might have, like, that one moment where the team was really good, but they haven't done anything. Or the team was, decent. Or they've just been real shit, Like, again, you look at that, and for me, that does not apply for the Cowboys because think about it this way. I want you to think about what the Cowboys have in terms of a resume as a franchise. Since the NFC East has been a thing, the Dallas Cowboys have won the division 24 times. This time they did it was their 24th. They have won the division more times than the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles combined. The Washington Commanders have won the division, I believe, 11 times. Let me just make sure I'm looking at the numbers here. No, the Washington Commanders have won the division 10 times. The Eagles have won the division 11 times. So you add those together. Yeah. Another fun fact: the Dallas Cowboys in that span of time, I guess from 1967, since the division became a thing, right? The Dallas Cowboys have a total of 33 playoff berths. That's 10 more than the Philadelphia Eagles. In that same span of time, the Dallas Cowboys managed to get 8 Super Bowl appearances, 5 championships. You get the whole goddamn thing. The Eagles have been to the playoffs 23 times and have only 1 championship with 3 appearances. Look, the numbers speak for it themselves. And hey, like, this is a really storied division. Anybody can tell you that. So the Cowboys have done a lot in division. That's not even a question, okay? So, let's forget the division. Let's talk about the actual, franchise as a whole. So, on the Dallas Cowboys resume, right, what makes them not a poverty franchise? Well, you have their run between 1966 all the way until 1985, that was the famous run with Tom Landry as coach, where they still hold the record for most consecutive winning seasons, okay? 20. And no one has beaten that. Bill Belichick and Tom Brady's Patriots were the closest, but they missed it by, I believe, a year. So the Cowboys' record is safe. On top of that, you add the 90s dynasty, okay? You're talking about a team that made the playoffs a big chunk of the time in the 90s, and they won 3 championships out of that, and they won the division 5 times in a row, been in the NFC Championship 4 times in a row. Like, that's an impressive run. I don't care how anybody wants to slice it up. Then you move into the modern era. They've been up and down. That the darkest period of Cowboys history, arguably, given the stature of the team, was in the early 2000s with the 5-11 3 straight seasons. But with that, after that point, really the Dallas Cowboys have been an average to above average team. They make the playoffs, they either lose in the first game or they win. But the Cowboys have not been complete garbage, but they've been good enough to get the job done, if that makes any sense. In that same span of time, the Dallas Cowboys have won 135 more games than they've lost, okay? And with that, you kind of take a look at their postseason record. They're 35-29 all time from 1960 up until this year, and that includes their playoff loss to the San Francisco 49ers. And it's unbelievable. Right? 5 championships in 62 years. That run of conference, you get the goddamn point. The Cowboys have a very damn good resume, to say the least. And I get it that, it's like, there are some people that will look at that and be like, oh, well, they haven't done anything in almost 30 years. And it's just like, well, think about it this way. The Dallas Cowboys have accomplished so goddamn much. They don't even have to do anything. Like, if the franchise ended today, they would go down as one of the most storied franchises in all of NFL history. There is a reason why the Dallas Cowboys are liked and hated the most. They're everywhere because they have such a stacked resume, and because of how Jerry Jones has marketed the team, dude, they're the Yankees of football, right? They're the Real Madrid of the football world or whatever. Like they're a very, very big franchise. Like there's a reason why they're here. Okay. Now you compare that, to the Eagles, right? As I go through the thing here, as I pull it up, because I was trying to find the list that I found it. Here it is. So look, the Eagles have been around since the 30s, and so I think to make this fair, I understand they won championships in the past. Cool. I wanted to talk about the Eagles franchise as a whole in that same span of time from the 60s until now. I think we can put them on a level playing field and call it a day. So, in 1960, they win the NFL championship versus the Packers. Congratulations. Cool. Then, this team, from 1961 all the way until 1977, missed the playoffs. 17 straight goddamn seasons of not making the playoffs. That's unbelievably bad. And look, there were some seasons where they won 9 games and they couldn't make the playoffs. They won 10 games and they couldn't make the playoffs. But in that same span of time, the team did not look good. They went through several head coaches and stuff like that. And listen, it's early in the NFL. Okay, cool. But still, having 17 straight, 17 straight seasons where you don't make the playoffs, that's bad. And, you're going to get on the Cowboys for not winning a championship in 25, 30 years. Dude, if the Cowboys didn't make the playoffs in that same span of time, now there would be a fucking problem. You know what I mean? But also, the Cowboys have not had a season, like they've never gone more than 6 seasons without making the playoffs. And that long stretch was in the beginning of their franchise history, when the team was just introduced to the league, right? So then you go from 78 to 81. The Eagles go on a decent little run there with Dick Vermeil, losing the wild card, in that first year. But they make their way to the Super Bowl in 1980, and they lose to the Raiders, right? In fact, that was the year they beat the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game. Hey, there you go. But they lost that Super Bowl. Then they tumble down, and between 82 and 87, they missed the playoffs. And you might be saying, Space Cowboy, you're nitpicking. Well, you know what? If you want to call the Dallas Cowboys a poverty franchise, you got to do something here to help me out, right? So then here's something they got from 88 till maybe 96. You got yourself a nice little team there, going to the playoffs. And in that span of time, between 1988 and 1996, let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 playoff appearances and only 2 playoff wins. Hey, you know what? Stuff happens. I'm not going to get mad at you for that. That's okay. But not getting past the second round. Okay. But, hey, stuff happens, And fun fact, if we want to play the goddamn numbers game, you mean to tell me the Eagles went from 1981 all the way until 2000 goddamn 1 before they made a conference championship again? Okay, we'll play that game. Oh, we did it more recently. Or the Eagles did it more recently. So, I've seen teams with longer droughts than the Cowboys. For fuck's sake, get the fuck out of here. So now we enter the Andy Reid era, ladies and gentlemen. A nice run for the Eagles. From 2000, I would say until 2008, they had a really good run. What did that involve? 3 straight NFC Championship game appearance. Well, 4 actually, if you include, the 2004 season. I apologize. And then, if you want to throw in 2008, you make another conference championship game there. You beat the Giants in the playoffs. That was, oh my God, that was so funny. I remember that. But you go to 5 NFC Championship games. You lost 3 in a row before you finally broke through and you lost the Super Bowl you should have won against the Patriots. Okay. That's fine. I guess I'm not one to talk shit, because, you haven't seen the Cowboys in a conference championship game, so you can't talk. Well, I would appreciate if my team got the job done, I would get fucking pissed if you mean to tell me that you went 24 odd years before you made it back to the Super Bowl, I'd be goddamn mortified. I want you to think about this. Like, if the Eagles didn't make the Super Bowl in 2004, are we really making, like, are we going to talk about how, you fell flat, are we going to talk about, hey, we didn't make it? Like, think about that for a second. Like, again, we have gone through, until now, we have, two Super Bowl appearances from 1960 all the way until 2004. Meanwhile, the Dallas Cowboys, in that same goddamn span of time, even with the Eagles' appearance in 2004, as we bookmark it here, they have still 6 more appearances in the Super Bowl and 5 more victories. All right, cool. So we fast forward past 2008, and then we entered the little rut where they, was entering the end of the Andy Reid era. And then they go on the little run with Chip Kelly. And then they have the magical run in 2017. How they can talk all the shit to Cowboys fans because they won a Super Bowl before the Cowboys did in many of their fans' lifetimes, like mine. Congratulations, you more power to you. Like, I'm not mad. Listen, shit happens. Luck went your way. And, they had a nice little run with Doug Peterson. Hey, you win the Super Bowl. Then you go 9-7, 9-7. You win a playoff game. You were like an Alshon Jeffrey, drop from maybe going back to the NFC Championship game, possibly the Super Bowl. Who knows? But this woulda, coulda, shoulda. If we're going to play that, then the Cowboys should have won 4 straight. Hey, they could have possibly, they should have gone to the NFC Championship game, maybe the Super Bowl. We could play that game too. 2019, hey, they go back to the playoffs, they win the division, and now you lost in the wild card round, and here we are now. So, if we're talking in that same span of time, ladies and gentlemen, okay, in that exact same span of time between 1960 and the year of our Lord 2021, the Philadelphia Eagles have, you mean to tell me, and I'm just pausing and trying to fathom the amount of shit talking that I hear from these people, right? And you mean to tell me that you've won 1 championship in this entire span of time, and you have all this fucked up shit that happens in your franchise, and you're not the poverty franchise? Get the hell out of here. And don't get it twisted. Listen, there are other franchises that are more cursed than the Eagles. I'm not going to play stupid there. But think about it, right? Think about this. If the Eagles didn't win that Super Bowl in 2017, are they a poverty franchise? Like, what is the measurement here? Or are the Eagles not a poverty franchise because of the fact that they make the playoffs? Like, in Dallas, right, the standard is the Super Bowl. And I'm not trying to say this shit. I'm not saying they're going to the Super Bowl. But the standard in Dallas has always been, they got to make it to the Super Bowl. It's Super Bowl bust. Oh, it's this. That's all the talk. The Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl. That has been their standard. The Eagles, maybe they'll make the playoffs. Hey, maybe they'll make the NFC Championship game. It's that talk that really defines the status of a franchise, right? When you talk about the Steelers, when you talk about the 49ers, like, if you're going to call the Cowboys a poverty franchise, you have to call the 49ers a poverty franchise. Oh, but Space Cowboy, they made it to 2 Super Bowls before the Cowboys did. Did they win? No. Look at the 49ers run after their last Super Bowl, or after Steve Young retired. They haven't been a good franchise if you want to pull it that way. Is it their fault? No. Like, again, it's the same thing. The 49ers can end as a franchise today and be one of the storied franchises. It's funny how there's so many instances of teams that go on these long droughts, even if they have a dynasty or something like that. But they get shit for it. Now, that's no excuse for the Cowboys not to make one. I mean, I want you to think about this. If the Cowboys were to somehow go on a run, whether they make it, win it all, I don't care. Would that invalidate the poverty franchise? Or are you going to be like, oh, well, they beat this opponent, or they beat that. You see what I mean? It feels like a disingenuous argument. Hence why, if we're going off the criteria that I labeled, you could make the argument that the Eagles are a poverty franchise. Oh, but Space Cowboy, they won a Super Bowl just recently. You know, like, okay, they won it recently, but what happens if we go 20 years down the road and they don't win one? Are they a poverty franchise now? Like, it would be different. I feel like if the Eagles had won a championship in these spans of time, then I could be like, yeah, they're not, but you can make that argument. They have, like, they remember all the pain and suffering that these Eagles fans have gone through since 1960. You know, it's just funny to me. I'm not saying this to piss people off. I'm not saying this to be an asshole. I'm just saying this because let's have an honest conversation. If you believe the Cowboys are a poverty franchise because they haven't been to a conference championship game in the span of time of 26 odd years, are the Eagles a poverty franchise because they missed the playoffs for 17 straight years? Are they a poverty franchise because they literally went from 1980 all the way to 2004 before they got back into a Super Bowl? Or from 1980 until fucking 2001 when they made it back to a conference championship? Like, you see what I mean? How stupid this sounds? And if you want to go even further, the Eagles and Giants have the same amount of playoff wins in the 2010 span that was brought up in the begin with. So does that mean that the Giants are not a poverty franchise? Which, by the way, the Giants are not a poverty franchise, but I mean, maybe with all this shit that's been going on now, but you see what I mean? I don't like playing these number games because I can easily manipulate them to my favor. And I know there are some of your Eagles fans that be like, oh, bitch, Cameron, you know what you're talking about. You're just instigating shit. Look, if you want to have a conversation about it, by all means, let's talk about it. I'm not afraid to talk about it. Listen, if you're going to waste my time, I'm not going to bother. But don't call the Cowboys a poverty franchise if your team's not one to talk. I'm not claiming these championships by the Cowboys, by the way. I'm just comparing them team to team. Right? Like, if I was to compare the Dallas Cowboys to the New England Patriots, that's a different discussion, right? Like, we're talking about the best dynasty in all, possibly, sports. You know, that's like comparing the Warriors to the Kings, or not the Kings, that's stuffed up. It's like comparing the Warriors to the Knicks, right? Or, like, the Warriors to a team, you know, that, like, I'm not trying to say the Eagles for, like, the Knicks. You know, I've always joked around with the Cowboys being the Knicks of the NFL, but in all actuality, you know, it really feels like the Cowboys are kind of like the team that, you know, they just haven't won in a while, but they're still a storied franchise. They have a better resume and legacy than pretty much the Eagles or any teams on their caliber. I mean, are the Chiefs a poverty franchise because they never made it to a Super Bowl in like 40-something odd years? Are the Jets are a poverty franchise, even though they won a Super Bowl in Super Bowl 3, excuse me. But look, whether we go on and on for the end of time, if there's anybody that you could say is a poverty franchise, you could point at the Eagles and say they are. Use this at your own discretion. But with that being said, that ends this episode of the Spacecast. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was fun to record. And so with that, I will retire. I will go to sleep because it's late. And we will be back next week for whatever topic is up for discussion. I know Mike Fisher was well requested. That almost won, but the Eagles option won out. So again, we'll put it up for a vote. So once again, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I can't wait for the next one. I'll catch you guys later. Have a good one, guys. Goodbye.